Hello, everyone. This is Chloe Tart with the Vanaheim Vibes podcast. This month, unfortunately, due to illness, Hillary Air will not be able to make it this month. She has been rescheduled for next month. This month, I have Lexicon Disgraced, a lifelong Norse pagan who is second generation. I have met them on TikTok. I met them through TikTok. Got to hear them out. They know their stuff. And they are full true to Freya. Lexicon Disgraced, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Now, most people, for everyone, I'd like for them to introduce themselves and also boast, to their accomplishments or to anything that they would like to be remembered for. How would you like to be remembered and introduced at this moment?
I guess I'm just very proud of things that I did because I haven't been alive that long, but I've done a lot of martial arts and I'm very proud of how far I've come with that.
Accomplishments are accomplishments are accomplishments. So own them.
Other than
And
that, I guess
I'm sorry.
other than that, I guess just being remembered for being hospitable is a big thing for me.
Awesome. So you've been at this for your entire. So you've been a Norse pagan your entire life, correct?
Yes.
Could you describe what that's? So for most of us, we did not have that lifestyle. Could you describe what it was like in the early days for you, coming to grips with this new concept?
Well, as a kid, there was something, like I could tell something was different. I grew up in a town that was very religious, mostly Mormons in that town, but other kinds of Christians. And there was just always something I knew that they were doing something different than us, and I didn't know. And it was really just because we were getting treated differently. At home, it was nice. We'd spend a lot of time playing outside, listening to stories from the Edda. My mom would read them during Yule. And it was just something the whole time I knew something was different, but it was nice when we were at home and it was just us.
So you got to have that experience of just really growing up with the stories and really, really marinating with it and marinating with this lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Like when me and my sister were little and there was a big thunderstorm, we'd open up my bedroom window and we would cheer on Thor.
Awesome. And you'd have that right from a young age. You would have that appreciation for those gods and
Yeah.
the spirits.
Yeah, that was just always how we thought the world worked.
And as you got older, how did you find yourself? How did you find yourself at with Freya?
Every time we read a story in the Edda and it talked about Freya, I just really admired how she responded to things, the actions she took. It just seemed like a lot of the things that she stood for and the things that she represented and is associated with really resonated with me. And she just became like a role model to me. She was the kind of woman I wanted to be.
So she had a lot of those strong. Would you say she had a lot of those strong woman character archetypes, like that strong, like I will decide for myself what I am, what I do.
Yeah, but less out of it seems less like those characters because it's more out of wisdom rather than just fierce independence. Like a sort of I know what's right for me. And with
Right.
independence, of course. But not just that.
So it's a self determination.
I think so. It's it is like that strong woman archetype type thing, but there's more wisdom to it than you see in movies and things. And I really like that.
So there's an underlying wisdom, an underlying ethos to that,
Yes.
to all of that.
Yes.
So that would really be the driving factor in all of this, for me at least as well. When I converted, I found Freya just repeatedly, just like I kept seeing her name in the Eddas and kept seeing her name in the lore and documentation, and it just called out to me. So it seems like, that's a pretty common way that Freya seems to reach us.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know, lately in my life I've been, I don't, it's a sad word to use, but lonely, and I find that cats are very sweet animals. And I don't know, it just makes me very happy because it reminds me of Freya a lot. I live someplace with stray cats now where there wasn't before, but just things like that. Freya brings a lot of comfort to my life and a lot of I don't know what the right word would be for it, but it's her presence is something that puts me at ease.
Something like something like a would it be a protective kind of feeling,
Yeah, but more so guiding.
guiding? Because the vibe that I've discussed before is the idea of Freya as kind of the cool aunt, the one who looks after you, the one
Oh
who
yeah.
can tell you things that your mom can't, the
Hmm.
things Frigg can't do. Um,
Yes, I agree with that.
so that very much seems to be very common in this Freya devotional space. Um, as you grow and as you've gone through life, have you had any particular experiences where you're like, well, this is Freya telling me I need to get up and move this way, or I need to make some sort of change?
Yes, a few times. It's hard to nail down which one specifically to talk about. A bad relationship I was in
Oh,
was
oh,
one, the first one I can think of.
you don't have to bring up specifics, but Freya and bad relationships seems to be that seems to be her, like, I will get you out of this jam.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. That one I very much felt that that was Freya when it happened. It was very bad.
Um, so, because I've noticed, for my money, that uh over the overarching energy that we bring into it, that she gives us, is energy to be ourselves, not to do what would Freya do, but for us to look inside and what we would do.
Yes, she emboldens you.
Because she's not interested in telling you what to do, is she?
She wants you to get up and do what you want and address what it is you want out of life.
Oh yeah. And for me, I just want to make sure that this is as universal as I think it is. And because this, like, I was like pretty sure when I started this podcast that we're going to run into pretty similar themes over and over again. Um, because for what I'm looking at in terms of like my point in my life, I'm 42, and I'm thinking like in those times in my life when I was about your age, and oh my goodness, I can't believe I just said when I was your age. How much different, going through college, going through those things, going through the first apartment, going through this, going through that. Would it have been different if I had Freya with me instead of facing those things alone?
It definitely makes things easier to have Freya with you going through those things, especially with the emboldening part.
So you mentioned emboldening. Ha- have you ever found it emboldening in terms of like personal conflict or anything like that? Um, like standing up for yourself, like,
Yes.
uh, okay, because I was thinking specifically of Freya in the halls of Sessrumnir during the Lay of Thram when she tells the Aesir to fuck off so hard that the walls shake.
Yeah, she definitely shaped a lot of, I guess, whether when I will stand up for myself and my ability to stand up for myself. Uh, because before I became a Freya devotee, I will admit I was fairly meek. I was a bit of a people pleaser sometimes, but ever since I just made it like a focal point of my self improvement to become confident, to become wiser, and be able to have some backbone.
And and it is, I think there is a wisdom there that Freya teaches that I think Odin is unable to hear. In because I think with Freya being so involved with Scythe, with being involved with magic, um, she has a perspective that Odin, who had to learn it, who had to come to it as a non practitioner, um, who had to find out these things through her, what those what that means in our lives. What I mean to say is, when it comes to like self confidence and those energetic, emotional things that we bring to ourselves, that magic, that wisdom, that knowledge has to be there. We have to know we are good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because, and I'm sorry for dominating the conversation here, but the perspective, I just want to a lot of this is just making sure that my perspective is correct, or at least my perspective aligns with what other people have been going through with Freya. Surprisingly, not a lot of people are, willing to talk, not really willing, but aren't willing to just document their experiences in this space. Um, so the life experience so far has been that she's built you up. She's made you into the person that you are.
Oh yes, she's she's definitely become like a role model for me. Not necessarily in achievements, not like the way a person would be a role model. Like the things that she represents, those character traits, like her telling the Azir to fuck off so loud that the walls shake, things like that. It's she to me seems strong. She seems confident. She can handle herself and she can handle whatever else is thrown at her. That's somebody I'd like to be, while also remaining like kind and supportive as she is.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I was kind of surprised by with Freya, because I've seen references to Freya in the countryside of Sweden, where even the Swedish old ladies will say, Freya's just out there to be kind and to do kind and to be of service to others.
Oh yeah, there's a long history of Freya being referred to as a god that's easy to reach out to. Like she loves people and she's very loving to mankind. That's something that's consistently been said by devotees and just pagans alike.
So where I'm where I want to take things though is I want to go ahead and start asking you things about generational heathenry, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
So in general, where I wanted to go with this is that I wanted to know your perspective on like how much does it matter what we're leaving you as the next generation? Like, what did you? Is there anything um, that we as a generation before you could provide or start building up that you all could use?
Reputation. Something that my parents raised me saying was make sure you be a good person because no matter what happens, your legacy is what you leave behind. Like kinfolk and cattle die, but your legacy. We were big on that. And they told us be a good person because when you're gone, your reputation, the legacy you leave behind, is always going to be associated with this religion because at the time we were quite devoted. And they just made it a point make sure you're a good person so that people know you and know you're Norse pagan and they think of good people when they think of Norse pagans. And a lot of people in the older generations, unfortunately, like I haven't seen a lot of younger folkists. It's mainly reputation. Know that who you are is being associated with the entirety of the religion and the future of how they're treated by people who don't really know what the religion stands for.
So we've so we've so ha- so we've set the reputation. Would you say that we set it well, or would you say that there's still work to be done?
I think there's still work to be done, and I think that a lot of younger pagans are taking that on and they're doing a great job. But there's still the layer of it that oftentimes young pagans aren't taken seriously because they either haven't been pagan for long, they only recently converted. Because frankly, there's not a lot of pagans like me who just grew up that way. But the people that have been pagan for a long time, there's there's a lot of loud ones that are not good people, and there's a lot of preconceived notions people have about Norse paganism in their head and paganism in general, and it's definitely worse about specifically Norse paganism.
So would you say that there's ageism among pagans not taking younger pagans seriously, or would you say that
No,
it's
I'd say
a
it's worse outside of the community, the ageism with pagans. Like, I don't see a lot of older pagans judging new pagans or younger pagans. I see people who are not pagan not taking young pagans seriously.
interesting? So I think um, because I'm also one of the things that I do, and I'm not here to recruit you. One of the things that I do is that I'm the volunteer coordinator for the Troth, and one of the things that we're trying to answer is um, what is it that we can provide, that we can start building, that we can start you know start bringing people in, start building something together. And that idea of we get to build, this is a place that we, or that this could be a place where we build reputation. I don't know. That's just a thought. And I'll probably edit that out later. Um, but the overall idea of reputation, the overall idea, or not the, but the overall idea that we're building something together and we're building something for the future. That seems to be something that we're all ready to start working on, even if we don't have a good idea of where to begin.
Mm-hmm. And I think a good place to begin is just be a good person. Just make sure that the people that know you, when they think of pagans, they're going to think of you. Make sure that's a good person. That sort of thing is something small you can do. And it's just generally something you should strive for. But I feel that when you put your religion behind it, it makes it more of a mission, more of something you feel is important to do, which it should be something that people just want to do, want to be a good person. But, sometimes being selfish is easy.
But putting your religion behind the selflessness, that putting behind it is a commitment. It is an active decision,
It's no longer just for yourself.
right? It is something that you're committing to.
Yes.
Awesome. Um, so the idea, though, is that um, when it comes to something like ritual, when it comes to something um, like spaces and things like that, um, have have you felt properly and adequately equipped to interact with other pagans and heathens, or is that something you've had to learn as you've grown, like through TikTok or through other social media?
Um, I I don't know. The online paganism spaces are very messy when it gets to Norse paganism. It's I'm not sure how you could be equipped for those communities. It's just mm, it's strange because it seems like there's a lot of focus on things like ritual and practices and not enough on education and what we really have when it comes to education about things that are rituals. Like there's
Hmm.
groups of people claiming that they're experts in Sade, and
Y-
I'm just not sure how you could be an expert in Sade.
yeah, we have no details about Scythe, but and we have no living. We unfortunately have no living tradition for Scythe, but we have to reconstruct and do our best.
Yeah, which I'm just not sure because I'm not sure how someone claims to be an expert, and then also the selling courses. It's I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of like they're sort of selling the mystique of paganism. Oftentimes, there's a lot of accounts like that. A lot that's focused more so on aesthetics and rituals and witchcraft rather than education and long spiels talking about what does this Edda story mean? What's the moral of the story? I forgot what it's called, but it's just there's a lot of focus on things that you don't start out doing, and it's I don't know. It feels a little backwards sometimes on TikTok.
Actually, I think that's pretty common all over social media, where where practice is coming before theory.
Oh yeah, it's been like that on Tumblr for a long time too.
Because for me, I didn't even get started with doing ritual until I was like well into a year into this path, and I did a lot of
Hmm.
reading and I did a lot of my homework.
Yeah, there's a lot of homework, and I feel like a lot of people get into it. Like I've heard of a lot of pagans getting into it, and the first things they want to do are rituals, or they want to get into witchcraft immediately. And it's like, whoa, 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 slow down. You got to read a lot of books first. There's a lot to learn.
Yeah, if there's one Marvel movie that I would actually point to that would actually have the pagan experience, it's not Thor, it's Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah.
When he spent that entire montage just sitting there reading through the entire library,
Mm-hmm.
like that's what you got to do. That's where you got to put in your time before you can start casting your energy into the universe.
Mm-hmm. And that's something I've talked to a lot of new pagans about. I have a friend in person who, within a couple weeks of getting into Norse paganism, was asking me to show him how to do bind runes. I was like, no, 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 no. We're gonna start with the runes with rune gazing. Just stare at them for a minute.
Let's do flashcards first. Let's work on flashcards.
No, I'm gonna have you. No, first you need to learn what they're called, sir. It's
Yeah, it seems a lot of people are not willing to walk before they run.
mm-hmm.
And I
And
think I'm sorry.
like I feel a lot of people get into paganism through not paganism TikTok, the much larger witch talk.
Yeah, and I think a lot of witches make a lot of interesting and compelling cases for like, oh, just do what you want, do whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they make it sound good, but like there's a lot of ethics that you got to go through before you start
Oh
messing
yeah.
around with this. Like you have to know what frith and grith are before you start forging it.
Mm-hmm. Like you gotta have some understanding of what you're doing before you start doing it.
All right. Unfortunately, we have to cut things short for because I do have a hard out in 15 minutes. I want to go ahead and move into the last segment of the show.
Okay.
Um, the general homework here is that guests, I ask all guests to provide one song to add to a Freya playlist.
All right.
And what song would you like to add?
Hmm. Rules by Doja Cat.
Ooh, good call. I'm into it. I'm into Doja Cat. I'm into it. I haven't heard that song, but could you give us a little background for those of us who haven't heard it?
Um, it's one of Doja Cat's like empowering songs, but I just think the general vibe, not just the lyrics of the song, but also just how it sounds. It just gives off the perfect vibe.
Awesome. All right. Do you have any questions for me? Do you have any feedback or any sort of things before we go?
Um, Not specifically.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sitting with me and having this wonderful conversation. Um, I will be having this up tomorrow, and then I'll be posting a link onto TikTok.
Okay,
Awesome. Thank you so much for sitting with me.
no problem.
All right. Bye.
Bye.